Welcome to Office Hours. Today is Wednesday, October 28th, and we're here to talk about SEO. And Lavani was just finishing bragging about her latest success story. So I would like for her to flex her muscles and tell us her success story.
Well, I'm almost finished writing a blog. It's going to be about, well, it is about 5 mistakes small business owners make.
I think that's great. And sometimes starting is the victory. Absolutely.
Definitely.
It's hard to do. People don't realize how hard it is to do it. And so we want to celebrate that. That's great. Good job.
Thanks.
Can't wait to read it. Trisha, did you have any success stories you wanted to share?
So I have someone that I've been talking to for about 2 weeks, and I just sent yesterday a big proposal out. So and it's I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get it because I don't think that they're looking at anyone else. So so I'm excited about that.
Great. That's great news.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm on the spot and I have to think of a success story. Oh. So I always like to keep Curious Ants up to date, but I have to admit that sometimes I get busy and I don't always update it. Well, yesterday I found time and I updated 2 or 3 processes, recorded 2 or 3 videos. So I was like, oh, this feels great. It feels great to have the time to do it, and it feels great to offer that. So they're going to be released here soon. I think I wrote a video on how to write a title tag on a page and how to do a meta description. And then I updated the page speed process based on our conversation last week.
Good. Okay. I kind of have some questions around that.
Yeah, it's hard to write it as a process because it's everything's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I try to give tools and opportunities, but anyway, so I feel good. I feel really good about that because page speed's been changing so much. And I looked at the process and I'm like, oh, this is almost out of date, which is what I want to do. I want to keep these up to date. I need to keep them up to date for my clients and then, make them available. But so I'm embarrassed that I haven't been doing that up to date, but I'm really glad that I finally got it. So maybe if I have some more time, I can throw a couple more in. But
maybe
anyway.
I was looking at that. Is that one that has a video in it of a guy talking about a site that he was doing?
So that was the office hours update.
Okay.
So I'll publish the office hours.
Okay.
And an update. And I put last week I mentioned a video where someone works through Web Core Vitals. And it's actually a Google produced video where a web developer works through different Web Core Vital problems on a specific website and shows you his process for figuring it out and what they did in order to make the Web Core Vitals good improvements. Yeah. I found it probably the most insightful thing I've seen. Sometimes reading the blog posts Google produces don't help me. I kind of have to do it to learn it. That's how I am. And watching him do it was very helpful. So that's in on Curious Ants under office hours from the 21st.
Okay.
So if you wanted to see that.
Yeah. I haven't finished it, but it was what I watched was good. And I was like, I got to come back and finish watching this.
Yeah. And anybody with the development skills should be able to get a lot out of that. Because unfortunately, so many of these are so tech heavy.
Yeah.
I try to think of ways to improve page speed where people don't have to crack open their website. And there are some things to do.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
One thing that, and I have seen a lot of web developers recommend, it has to do with, of course, images, because a lot, especially sites that have been there for a while, have, at one time, a lot of people, and especially like if you're the business and you're just putting up stuff just to add things and you don't look at it. Yeah. Well, there's a AppSumo deal right now.
Yeah.
Perfect timing on Short Pixel. And it's a plugin that but you can also use their site and like upload all your images and optimize it on their website and then put it on yours. Or you can add a plugin, like if you've got an old site that's got tons of stuff. And I've heard I have it, and I got another code of it because you can stack some. But it's a $49 for one code LTD. And so I picked that up because, and it especially was thinking about this when I was looking at it.
Okay.
Speaking of images, there's a plugin, like you know how you have like those stock photos like Pixabay and all those. Well, there's a plugin called Instant Image, I believe it is, and what it does is, I think it pulls images from Pixabay, one of those stock photos. And so instead of you having to go back and forth, so if you have it, that plugin on WordPress, you can select the photo and it'll resize it for you and put it on there.
Good.
Nice. Okay.
No, I like, because I will use stock photos, but I'll go to those websites. So to have it built into WordPress would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, it's a plugin to put on there.
Okay, no, thank you for,
Yeah.
I swear, Tricia, well, both of you know my good buddy, Steve Schwartz.
Oh yeah.
And think about him. He's been he broke his ankle pretty bad recently. He's
Oh,
kind of laid
yeah.
up, but
Yeah, I can get to read that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so, hi, Steve. But Steve and I have been wanting to do a WordCamp pitch together, which is all about images. Because if I had to predict the future of Google, it would be an image-based search engine to compete with Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok. And so if that's true, then we need to start thinking about taking our own pictures and not relying on stock imagery.
Yeah, I try to. I know it's hard, but yeah, I actually had a client that I had told working on some things on their site, and I've got mostly stock images. And then I'm at a point where I'm like, okay. So I reached out to him. I was like, for some of these, this is what I have, but I'd like to replace these with some actual images. What do you have?
Yeah.
And I was shocked. They scheduled a photo session. And I'm waiting to get it. I'm like, yes. Because sometimes you just can't get them to do it. I'm like, your employees, you're this, you're that. And, some of them, I was like, some of them just with your phone, like of employees working. And, this is like a print shop, having them like, sitting there with the final thing, whatever. And I was surprised when she said, oh, we're getting pictures and we'll get them to you this week. And I was like, yes.
Well, and I have one client that I just said, listen, I'll take it on your phone. Text message me your image, or MMS, your image, because then I can convert it into the right size. I can compress it. But then it's also the unique images because you want to be able to see his work.
Yes.
But I have another client that does a lot of industrial stuff. And as I'm learning the client, I'm getting to understand their business, but I really struggle with, what are they doing in this picture?
Yeah.
They're messing around with some machine, and you don't want to get your finger in it, but you don't know what they're doing, and so even to kind of understand what these pictures are was a real struggle, but at least they have their own pictures. And I think that's going to be something we should all be worried about, but like, I think we should all be considering, as Google's data is saying that more and more people are turning to image search as a search engine in and of itself.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing design kind of stuff, you want your own images.
Yeah.
Or God forbid you have the same blonde ponytail girl with a headset call us now that every other website has. Like, really? I get to call and talk to that same girl that every other website has? Like, instant credibility loss.
Yeah.
At least take a picture of one of your real people. And,
I know. One thing I have found is that sometimes there in a lot of my clients, they will have employees that will occasionally upload things to Instagram or Facebook, to social media.
Yeah.
So I can then, instead of just saying, send it to me, I just go to social media and pull them all down, you know.
Yeah.
You get them from them faster. So I do have some of those as well that I can get it.
Yeah.
One thing to note is that for Google My Business, when you Google My Business has posts that you can add and add text, so that you can use whatever you want, stock photos. But if you are uploading photos to your listing, they do not allow stock photos. So that's something, you know, and that's relatively new. I think sometime this year it was announced that, you know, don't add stock photos to that. So I think that kind of goes to your point of where Google's leaning.
Funny
Yeah.
you said that, because I took a webinar last week about Google My Business through Google, and the guy that did it, he's actually from North Carolina area, but I think he lives in Georgia now. But he didn't mention, at least I have the recording, but I don't recall him mentioning that you can't use stock photos. But I did. He did say using photos and videos are very good when doing Google My Business.
Yeah, definitely. You can use stock photos on your posts, which are, you can add posts just kind of like a Facebook post or something. You can add stuff. But there's, it is relatively new. I think it came out this year, but I remember there was a big deal about it, because at first there was confusion on, do you mean just the images you upload, or do you also mean posts? And it finally came out, posts, you can use what you want, but images that you upload, they have to be your images.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, what questions did you have, Trisha, that you wanted to?
So let me see. A couple of things. I'm trying to think. So one of my big questions, and I know that we talked about this, that a lot of people have difficulty, is of course the page speed.
Yeah.
And so one of my things is, you know, I'm talking to clients about this, and I'm a little afraid they're going to be, okay, so tell me what to do. And I'm like, you know, I've got, like, you know, of course, the first thing I always say, who's your web host? Second thing is your images. If you don't have them optimized, let's look at something like Short Pixel or something like that. Those, I think, are the biggest two to, you know, if those aren't good, then do that. After that, I don't know. Part of it is, like, I know some people who say that they do website speed optimization. I don't know, how do you even look at and evaluate someone like that? Right. There's also people have referred me to is it, I think, WP Fix It. It's like for $150 they speed your site up. I don't know if you've heard of that. I have not used, I've heard of, someone told me about them. I've never used them, but they have like plans, like, you know, there's something else, I can't remember what it was, they'll do for like $100. And then this is like 150. And then they also do things like cleaning your site as far as viruses and all that stuff. So they've got several just like little fake packages. You need just this, here's how much it is. I don't know how good they are. That's kind of my thing. It's like, you know, I want to have some people to work with or refer people to, but I don't know how to gauge, you know, do they do a good job? What do they, you know, do they know what they're doing, or do they just charging people, you know?
Yeah. I think one of the things, and Lavani brought this up last week, one of the other things we can do to improve our own particular website speeds is making sure we're not running unnecessary plugins.
Yes.
That's a huge win. Especially because some of the plugins that are poorly built add extra instances of JavaScript or jQuery to the site. Pardon me, which ends up in website bloat.
Yes.
The default jQuery, then this plugin uses jQuery, and this one uses an older version, and it keeps loading all this stuff, and that just so anything you can do like that. Plugin wise, I've started using WP Rocket.
I was going to mention that.
So I have that on, well, my old site is one that I'm going to be working on a new site, and it's kind of like, I'm just not going to, it's just so old and so whatever, I'm not going to work on it. But then again, I might test some things on it.
Right, right.
So I have WP Rocket on there.
It-
But I don't remember from before adding it and checking what it was.
Right. That's always the trick, right?
I think it was one of those things, oh, WP Rocket is good. Let me just put it on here. And I didn't
Right.
really focus.
So with WP Rocket, they have an image solution. I think they're associated with in some case called Imagify.
Yes.
Imagify, which I've used, and
Yes.
it kind of does a lot of these things we've talked about, where it'll go through your entire library and compress them and show. It's not just about compressing the image; it's about using a web format, and it'll convert that for you, which is a little faster for the browsers that work with it. But the key, whether you're using a plugin or hiring a service,
Yeah.
it's all about benchmarking.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's now anytime I touch anything. Of course, it was my site. And I'm like, oh, I'll just put this on here.
Yeah.
Of course, all the other sites, like I have one client that I told to change their hosting, and I have the before and after.
Yes.
They significantly helped them,
Yes.
but they're still not where they need to be.
Right.
So
And
I think that images is something that they probably need to work on. So
well, so that's what the process in Curious Ants for page speed is definitely focusing on.
okay, I'll look. Okay.
It's focusing on benchmarking numbers.
Yeah.
Because in some cases, the only problem is that you have a huge image on a page. In other cases, it's that plus this, and it's a real mess. But the benchmarking not only helps you to see each thing progress, but what works and what doesn't. And so there's several places which you'd want to benchmark.
Yes.
You'd want to run the Google PageSpeed Insights per template. And with WordPress, we have different templates for different kinds of pages. So you'd want to run that because the PageSpeed Insights only does a page at a time.
So question about that. So are you saying, because I was kind of looking at it to say, okay, do your homepage first and then look and see in your analytics your most visited pages and then do them next? Is that not how you should, is that you should do templates?
So the homepage on a typical site, whether WordPress or whatever, is so different.
Okay. Yeah.
That it doesn't, what you change on the homepage doesn't necessarily improve all the rest of your pages.
Okay.
Sometimes it does, but not often.
Okay.
So that's why the process I'm recommending in Curious Ants thing is basically there's a report in Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is a terrible way to measure speed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to kick my cat out of the office because she's about to attack the window. All right. So because Google Analytics is going on numbers of speed, but it's really it's really subjective based on a lot of factors. So Google Analytics doesn't measure speed very well. There is a report within Google Analytics. It's in the process. I forget what it is offhand, but it basically shows you, it lists all the pages, the speed, which is kind of like a crappy number that's not very helpful, and the page speed scores for each page. So what you can do is sort that by slowest page speed, and then you can see which are the lowest page speed scores and start attacking it that way. Presumably, some of those will help you identify like, oh, this page just happened. Someone accidentally uploaded a 10 megabyte image on this page. We'll fix that. Now it becomes normal like the rest of it. Then we can go and start saying, okay, it seems that these template pages, like a page versus a post, these pages maybe tend to rank worse. So now we're going to attack the page template and we're going to fix that. And so that's how I'd approach it. The other way I'd approach it is the data in Search Console, which is a bunch of pages on your site.
Yeah.
The problem with the Search Console data is your website has to have enough a baseline amount of traffic for that to show up. So if you're a real small business, you might not have enough baseline data in Search Console to show page speed scores.
Okay.
But if you do have enough data in Search Console, that's where I would start, because that's going to tell you these are the pages that are okay. These are the pages that are poor. These are the pages that are bad.
Okay.
And so then you can, and it gives you a page and says, this is representative of pages like this. So it's kind of saying, start here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so if you're going to do WP Rocket or Short Pixel or whatever,
Mhm.
or manually change images, I benchmark it.
Yeah.
Like use one of those tools, benchmark it. Now, if you're going to use a third-party service, I can't vouch for WP Fix-It. I don't know them.
I'm kind of afraid to, because it's like 147 fixed price, and I don't know.
I would put some feelers out and see if anybody else has used them,
Mm-hmm.
because for them to do anything, you're going to have to grant them a lot of access to your site.
Yeah, they're gonna, exactly.
And
I
I'm
mean,
not about to give away the farm to someone I don't know very well.
that's kind of why I don't really, I don't know. I mean, I
Well,
always
I was
back it
thinking,
up, but first, go ahead.
Yeah, Lavanya?
if WP Fixes is anything like WP Buffs, I think it is.
Okay.
I was looking into them because as I get my business to grow and maybe have more customers than I possibly can handle when managing websites,
Yeah.
I was you can outsource their stuff with WP Buffs, and basically from talking with them, and plus they also go to some what's those word camps.
Yeah.
It was at I think it was at the Philadelphia one. I can't remember which one they were at recently.
Yeah.
You can look into them. If you go on their website, they'll schedule a time for you to talk with them, and they'll tell you how they operate.
Okay.
But whatever they do, according to them, they'll send you. You'll also get the information as to what they did on their website.
Okay, I'll check that out. One, if you're still looking at doing that outsourcing, that I use and recommend is GoWP.
Yeah.
They're based in Atlanta. I know the head guy, they're fantastic. I use them.
Yeah.
And basically they will, and I think the price right now is like $30 per site. They do daily backups, they do updates, they do visual checks to make sure like it didn't break something when they update it. They do weekly updates, daily backups, and all, and they're really good. So whenever I had one client that was doing some crazy stuff on their site, and I kind of was like, oh, and so I went to them. I'm like, I can just say, okay, you've got my backup. Send me the most recent one in case I need it. But they keep all that stuff, and they tell you how long and every thing that they keep it for. So, but they're really good, and I think that that's really cost effective. And because usually it's basically the same thing that most people do when they do like $100 a month care plan. So that's like $70 profit a month, and you're not really, they just do it all. So.
Actually, they're cheaper than WP Buffs.
Yeah, I can send you, or I can put the, I don't know if I have I'll look up and see if I have like some information on them. And one thing I know last year, and the owner, Brad Morrison, he's a good friend of mine that I met through WordPress WordCamp. And last year I signed up around, Black Friday. They had a Black Friday special. So since that's coming up, that might be something you want to check into. I'll look up their information and see. Do you want to put your email in the chat, and I'll send it to you?
Okay.
Because you'll want to get on their email to see if they have a Black Friday thing. Last year they did. I don't know that they will, but and I think it was like $21 a month then for anyone that you signed up for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's what it was last year. Now who knows? I don't know. They may do a Black Friday special on something else. So,
and I think that's the point. go with someone you trust.
Yeah, and
Right.
see, that's the thing. I know and I trust them, and I've known him for a long time, and he runs several meetups here. So that's kind of why I know and trust him.
I know and trust Bob, Brad too.
Brad, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
and there are times I've had questions, and he's sent me a personal email. I'm like, this was a simple little question. What are you doing wasting time on me? But he's really nice. He's really nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, but speed is all about benchmarking, and that's, it's tough to write a process on how to improve speed because it's going to be different for everybody. Sometimes it's going to be about your web host, and sometimes it's going to be about your images, and sometimes it's going to be about recoding your entire site because you get what you pay for.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so benchmarking is key. So wherever, you might have to spend money to make your website. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say about it. You're going to have to spend money to do it, but make sure you benchmark it. But the metrics to look for are those 3 web core vitals, which we kind of talked about a little bit last week.
Yes.
Those 3 things are the most important factors to look at. If you take care of those things, you're going to take care of most of the problem of speed.
Okay.
But especially as far as it's concerned for SEO, because those are going to be the ranking factors.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing that you can look at that does help is a CDN. Like
so that came up recently, and I don't know enough about it to know what. So one of the things, like, so for example, I was telling you about Short Pixel.
Yeah.
And I'm on a Facebook group, and all the developers were saying, if you don't have this, get this. And one of the things somebody commented on, because they've added into it their CDN thing. Well, somebody said, but they're excellent, but don't use them for the CDN.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, so then I got to do something else, and I don't even know what that is. So I'm thinking Cloudflare. Okay.
Cloudflare is what I use for all my sites. It's free for this. They charge for certain services.
Yeah.
I haven't had a need to use the certain services. Mm-hmm. There's a level of security that's added with Cloudflare that's valuable.
So tell me, I'm not too sure I understand exactly what it does. So like, let's say I have my website URL purchased at GoDaddy, right, and I have Cloudways my host.
Yes.
So typically what I know is I would go to GoDaddy and change my DNS records.
Right.
So does Cloudflare now mean that I pull my DNS records into Cloudflare? Right. And manage them? Is that what that is?
So you do that, and then what Cloudflare does is it takes copies of everything and distributes it all over the world, so that whoever is querying your site is getting the copy that's closest to them on whatever server that's closest.
Okay, that helps me understand
so
it, because
Cloudflare says, "Oh, you're in Atlanta. I'm going to serve you to the Atlanta group, but David's in Charlotte, so I'm going to go to Mooresville."
Okay.
Rather than, like, my old host was in Dallas, and so I would get low speeds because it would have, like, the speed of light is a constant. Like Einstein taught us this. So even though the electrons are traveling the speed of light to Dallas, there still takes a finite amount of time to get there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty small finite amount of time. But considering all the bytes that have to go back and forth, that's a lot. And so if you can get it to a closer server, that improves. And since you don't know where every visitor is coming from, it actually, Cloudflare would say, I'm going to send a copy distributed amongst all their servers all over the world, and they're going to serve up to everybody one that's closer to them.
How did they do that for free?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't ask questions. I just take it. Other services that they provide, and that's great. And so, like WP Rocket will integrate with Cloudflare.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so it kind of works together with that. Now, there are problems with this. So you have to be careful. For instance, Curious Ants being a site where if you log in versus if you don't log in, you see different content. If it's not set up right, Cloudflare might serve you the non-logged in content even though you're logged in.
Okay.
So, by the way, I just set up Curious Ants on Cloudflare. So if you notice that, tell me, because I could be locking you out unintentionally from the content that you deserve. So, but that's the value, but also, so it speeds it up. Sometimes they, well, they don't do that. WP Rocket will do compression on JavaScript files and CSS and stuff like that. But WP Rocket or Cloudflare doesn't. So CDNs, now WordPress through Jetpack offers a CDN. I know.
I mean, I think I say that because I know Jetpack does so many things that I don't know what it does. And I think because of that, I don't use them. So it's bloated for me.
It is very bloated. And it's one of those plugins that if you put it on Jetpack on, your site will load slower. But there's a diminishing returns, right? Because sometimes that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's an option. It's not necessarily the best option. Might not be the best option for everybody.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't want to have to, because that's the other thing some of these CDNs will do is they will actually pull off your images and store them on a server that is dedicated to your images or your JavaScript or your CSS files. So what Jetpack does, for instance, is changes your WordPress code and say, don't pull the image from their server, pull it from a WordPress server. And those WordPress servers are a lot faster because all they're doing is serving images in JavaScript and CSS. So that's another thing some of these CDNs do.
Okay.
It's a content delivery network. So it's saying, okay, and it will change the code to say, don't pull it from locally, pull the image from a WordPress server somewhere, which happens to be all over the world, and they can send you the fastest, closest one to you. So that's another advantage for that. There's an interesting, I won't speculate, but there's an interesting thought when you think about the fact that your image isn't really hosted on your site as it goes to SEO, but I think the speed improvement will be fine.
Yeah. So for the CDN, so now that's all the DNS records, like even like your MX, like your emails. Is that right? So is that right? So you got to make sure you don't that up.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Which is another reason why Cloudflare might not be the solution for everybody.
Well, I would think that it's probably a good solution, but to have somebody who knows what they're doing.
Maybe. I took a Friday afternoon one time and just did it for all my sites.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a couple hours for everything to repopulate. But Friday afternoon, I mean, nobody's working. Yeah. So that's fine, which meant I couldn't get any email. Mm-hmm. And I, had to do all these things. I accidentally forgot that I gave my dad an email address on one of my servers and didn't, and so he, things like that. Mm-hmm. So if you're running a working business, you might have to do this during low peak hours.
Yeah, night. Yeah.
But that is a solution that might be able to help you.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting because I know about it and I have it on one of site that I work with. I had someone help me do it. Yeah. And I didn't quite understand why we were doing it. So now I do. So that definitely helps with the why it's there, because I'm like, I've seen it and I just didn't understand all of that behind it. So okay. Well, I think since I'm working on my web, I haven't started yet, but it's on my to-do list.
Yeah.
And which I'm glad that I know all this that's coming up with Google. So I know now these are things I need to do. So I'll probably do it, Cloudflare on that and get more familiar with it. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what Cloudflare can't do is, for instance, if your website's so jQuery heavy, and so dependent, it can't fix that. It can't fix poorly built sites, but it can make it noticeably faster. So Cloudflare might not affect some of your web core vitals.
Sure. Okay.
It probably will do first input delay faster, but that might be a but it won't do content layout shift because that's a function of how the site was built.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It might make the first largest contentful paint faster because the largest item will now be served up much faster, but it might not be fast enough because it's still too large of an image or jQuery file or whatever. So just know that it's not a panacea.
Yeah.
Plus, you can run into problems like I talked about, where you're propagating DNS. Oops, don't do it on Monday morning.
That was for the DNS. So I typically would make a copy of like my current. Is that how you do? Is like if you've got your current DNS that has all your CNAME, your A, your MX, everything in there, make a copy of that to make sure you've got everything.
Yeah. 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 Because you might go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are tricky. And I was using Google for my email.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't going through my host. So then I had to make sure to add that correctly.
Yeah.
Again, it is a more complicated solution.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's another tool in the tool shed.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Lavanya, do you have questions? Because if not, I do have another question, but I can wait.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I was on a Zoom call last week, and I thought that they were going to be talking about Core Web Vitals, and I was like, oh, this will be good to hear from other people as well. No, they were talking about something else, but it was interesting. So they were talking about the other thing that Google's doing coming up in sometime at the beginning of the year. The mobile, I know we're now mobile first on most of them, but they're saying that Google's come out and said that basically sometime in beginning of 2021, that it's going to be mobile, I guess kind of mobile only, that if you don't have, like if you've got elements on your mobile or on the mobile, when you look at it that aren't, let me rephrase that. If you have things on your desktop and because of the layout, it didn't work for the mobile version, it just doesn't appear, Google's not going to index that coming sometime this year, next year.
Yeah. And
that was what the whole conversation was about.
Okay.
Is there anything that I should know about that?
So I'd heard inklings of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a slow adopter when it comes to SEO. I have to hear it from multiple places before I start really paying attention to it, because there's, first of all, there's a lot of misinformation, but also a lot of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I have heard this.
Okay.
But it doesn't concern me very much, because I typically recommend that all websites be designed responsively.
Yes.
So that means is that even though it's viewed on a mobile device, all the same content is visible from the mobile device and the desktop.
Yeah.
So if you're doing responsive web design, you are not serving a different page for mobile. That's really hitting. It's the old M.dot websites.
Well, and that's what I was just thinking. They said that like the M.dot, that if you have that, you must be changing it, because that's not going to, and I think they were saying mostly big companies do that.
Right.
And that, most small business. But I guess the other thing is, like for Lavanya and those that are developers, it's a good selling point to say you need your website updated, because Google's not going to pick you up in the search at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, it's not that it won't pick you up in the search. It'll only show what's on your mobile.
On your mobile version.
Right.
So if you have, yes, it only show what's on the mobile version. So if you've got an old website that maybe isn't mobile responsive, maybe some things aren't showing up, then maybe that would be.
Yeah. And that's why this is super controversial. Some people are really up in arms about this, because although responsive web design has been the vogue for years, and it's always been my recommendation, I've had clients that are just adamant, we are not doing a responsive design. We're designing for mobile, because mobile is a different device and accomplishes different things. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You have a very good point. And so the compromise position was, okay, but please make sure that the bulk of the content that we want to show up to Google is still visible on mobile, things like that. But we understand that mobile users are going to be different in their intent and use of a website.
Yeah.
So for instance, with Curious Ants, the original version, you couldn't sign up on mobile. Well, that's because I made a mistake. But as I thought about it, I'm like, is that really important? Because that might not be what people want to do on mobile. They're going to mostly use this while they're sitting at their desk.
Yeah. Working and
working on their stuff. And so that's, you really probably aren't going on your phone to read through the 7-step process and start, because there's only so much you can do. So whether or not that was the right strategy, in this case, I didn't mean it to be that way. It wasn't an intentional strategy. It's like, oh crap, my button isn't showing up on the mobile. But that is a very good point, because sometimes mobile sites just do different things. For instance, if you're a plumber, you just want someone to be able to call you.
Yeah.
Right. And frankly, if you're using a mobile design, if you're using your phone and your basement's flooding, you just want to push a button and get that plumber there ASAP. You don't want to read all about the plumber's credentials or see the troubleshooting images that they have to help, whatever. Come here fast is the button. And so there could be a case to say, well, the plumber mobile website should be a big button that says, come here now.
Yeah.
But what Google, by moving in this direction, is telling us is you can't do that. You need to make sure your website's fully responsive, the same content on mobile as is on desktop. They've been moving this direction for a long time. This should not be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's kind of like when you look at the people who are online, it's shifted from mostly using desktop to mostly using mobile. So I'm kind of like, so that's why there's this shift.
Yep.
So, I mean, it makes sense.
Well, I have a lot of customers that are B2B and that produce different industrial things. And they'll often say, oh, nobody comes to our site from their mobile.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people do, because they're sitting at their kids' t-ball practice going, I got to order this baler. And I've got 15 minutes while my kid sits on the bench.
Yeah.
I'm going to just kind of do a little work and get this off my plate. And if you don't have a mobile friendly website, first of all, it's not ranking very well because Google is not giving you all the kudos because it doesn't. Second of all, even if they do find you and it's hard to use, you're not going to get that conversion, because someone will fill out the form. If you make it easy for them, they'll fill out the form and then just respond to the email tomorrow. That's what they really want.
Yeah.
So, I've been arguing for this for a long time to make sure clients have this and think this way. So yeah, there are probably some holdouts and there's probably some people who are really angry, but hey, you know what? As my wife says, it's Google traffic is free, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah.
You got to put money into it if you want to get that free, juicy, organic traffic. And sorry, we're going to play by their rules. And they say we got to do it this way. Well, the alternative is paid search, and you can pay to do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. You're the second person I've heard say this. So this is starting to put this in my.
I went into that whole Zoom thinking I was going to learn to find out some different things about one thing, and it was completely different. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Good.
Well, I think we're running out of time. Anything else we need to talk about today? I feel like there was something announcement I wanted to make. Oh, Google is updating Google Analytics. To a new version.
We're like, oh.
Yeah. I literally just transitioned yesterday and I'm playing with it. I'm a little confused by it. And as I've read up a little bit, other people are confused by it too. So I'll probably have to update the analytics process.
I think I got used to it.
Right as I'm learning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Google's always changing. We're playing this game. The rules are changing. But like for one of the things I can't figure out is, what are my goals? How do I set up my goals?
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it. So I'm still playing with that.
Okay.
But
Is it are they forcing you to update, or are they giving you a choice right now?
right now they're not, but they sent all kinds of emails that make it sound like it's a threat, like you better do it.
Mm.
But when you log in and follow it, it says, "Oh, well, thanks for opting in." You're like, wait, you were threatening me that I had to do this, and now you're like acknowledging it's a beta. So it's like, I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep running your analytics.
So basically I need to go in and get my goals set up so that I've already done that. Okay. Yeah.
I think what's going to happen, there's going to be two versions of Google Analytics running at the same time for a while. And they'll migrate everything to the new one.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll find out. It's so new.
Yeah.
It's right off the presses. So just if you get an email because you have a Google Analytics account, you'll get an email and it'll say you need to upgrade.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead,
I think I'll wait.
but make sure you don't delete your old one too, right?
Okay.
Make sure you keep your old analytics script on your site. So you
so they're wanting you to change your script?
It's a new account number.
Oh, yuck.
But it has different data, more data, different ways of looking at things. Google Analytics in a lot of ways is a little out of date in their way of their attribution models and stuff like that. I love it, but it is an old product that really was designed to make paid search look good. The new one is a little bit, they're definitely some room, so I'm curious if they're going to do things like attribution models, first click attribution, things like that. It's called Web and App.
Yeah, I just got that email about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's how new it is. Exactly. And
yeah, I just got that email.
yeah, if you follow the clicks in the email, it'll show you how to set it up. But just be sure to not take your old analytics code off your site and but you can put the new one on. So now my main site, Reliable Acorn, is running 2 instances of analytics.
Okay.
I'm just letting the data accumulate and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's good to see you too. Stay healthy.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
too.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.